Hey there, folks. Welcome to our run of Monsterhearts by Avery Alder. As part of the Gauntlet Reading Club, we'll be drawing on Shannon McGuire's Every Heart a Doorway for inspiration. We're doing character creation today, and before we get into things, I wanted to open with a quick round of introductions. I'm Steven, he, him. I'm the facilitator for the club, and I'm GMing this run on Monsterhearts. If you want to look me up, you can find me at Steven Alligator on Twitter, but I'm really only pretty much post about just post updates for when I'm posting these up. So you're not going to find much more there. But yeah, if we could go around, let's go counterclockwise for me, because I think the way we'll do this is if you want to introduce yourself and who you are, well, not who you are playing with, just introduce yourself, your pronouns, and the playbook you're interested in. I know that Sabine and Kea mostly lock their choices in, and that will give David an opportunity to think a little bit more about what of the remaining options he's interested in.
Sure. I'll just introduce myself. I'm Sabine. I use any pronouns. I have read all of the books of the Wayward Children, but I know that we are only referenced in the first one. I've been with the Gauntlet for, I think, 3 or 4 years now. Anything else you need to know? Oh, I've played Monsterhearts before. Yes, I'm familiar.
Cool. And yeah, Kay, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Kay. I use she, they pronouns. Super excited. Monsterhearts is probably my first big TTRPG love. I've played it a ton. I've streamed it a ton. And I'm very excited to get to play it with y'all, especially through the lens of what we read in the first book of Through Every Heart a Doorway, which I really enjoyed.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking of. It does have a very much a look of, and this is just something Kay brought up, of that old Game Boy chess game, Grandmaster. Like, you do kind of are in that position right now of like where the guy in that Game Boy sticker was in. But yes, David.
Hi, yeah, I'm David. I use he him pronouns. I do not usually appear in such a dramatic camera angle, but I am currently playing in a hotel room. So I've read the first couple of books of the series. Enjoyed them. I think there is an interesting world to be playing in. I've played a lot of Monsterhearts in my time, and yeah, looking forward to seeing what we all come up with here.
Yeah, and I'm wondering what, because we know Sabine is kind of looking at the ghost, and I see you're filling that out, Sabine, and Kay is filling out the infernal. Which of the remaining playbooks were you interested in, David?
I'm thinking in that case that I might go for the Siren, the one I was looking at from the Second Skins. I'm getting the right name for the thing, aren't I? Yeah, the Second Skins. No, Skin Deep, sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna Skin Deep. Yes, which is bought by Sawyer Rankin. Goes by Ferret here on the Gauntlet. You should look up their stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, the Siren is pretty much what it suggests you are. You are a performer, and you mess around with people through that thing, and I think that could be quite fun. After our conversation last week about the idea of sort of characters that can kind of do stuff, which I think Siren's probably what I'm going to go for. I've been tempted by Vampire as well, but I think given we've got the Infernal and the Ghost on the table, I'll go for something a little more slightly different inflected than the Vampire.
Yeah, and there is, I mean, you can take any of them, but there is a already kind of a blank skin at the very end for filling in for third party skins. So I know basically everyone here is very familiar with Monsterhearts, so I'm not going to have us dwell too long on kind of going over what things are. But I guess in case anyone is watching who is not familiar with Monsterhearts and the way it works, a lot like most belonging at no, a lot like most Powered by the Apocalypse games, characters in Monsterhearts are defined primarily through a set of stats. In this case, hot, which is like attractiveness, force of personality, literally ability to turn people on. Cold, your standoffishness, your ability to shut people down. Volatile, your capacity for kind of violence and anger. And dark, your connection to the like your gloominess, but also your connection to the dark forces of magic in the world. And also a set of moves. Some folks get moves immediately. Tells you to take specific moves at character creation, and usually you'll get another 1 or 2 moves to pick from. You also have a sex move and a darkest self, which we'll kind of go over as we're introducing characters more specifically. These are basically the kind of dramatically interesting moves to sort of help prompt story developments when those things come up. But I'll give people a chance to do some work filling out their character sheet, and once people are along a little bit of the ways, actually, I realize I forgot to go over for the video, and we'll just kind of go over that now. Beside, like this game is hosted through the Gauntlet. The Gauntlet is a online community for role-playing games, mostly of the indie and OSR variety. Besides publishing a zine called The Codex, it also puts out several podcasts about role-playing games. And it organizes a gaming calendar, which this and many other games are organized through every month. The calendar is open to non-members, so feel free to jump on over there through the link below if you're interested in playing with any of the folks here tonight, or any of the other people on the Gauntlet. So yeah, I'm wondering if our Ghost Leigh could introduce themselves.
Sure. Their name is Leigh, not Leigh, but
Leigh. Okay.
Yeah, that's just spelled weird. Yeah, Leigh comes from a large family, and there was always sort of a bit of chaos at home, lots of children running around, cousins running around, everybody's yelling, and Leigh was always like the quieter one and got overlooked a lot, even back then when they were quite a normal child, and then they found this odd door, and they went through, and they came to the Carnival of Sorrows. Now, you go to the Carnival of Sorrows to actually lose your sorrow or grief or any kind of pain or emotion that you really, really don't like and don't want to deal with. You just throw it away in the ecstasy of the carnival. And so you could lose yourself there. Lots of not quite good stuff, but that is not, these are not the people that Leigh met. She met the sweepers. The sweepers come out when the old day is dying, the new one is not quite born yet, and they gather up all these emotions and things like that and sweep them away. And yeah, and that is where she actually, or they, sorry, I'm struggling with pronouns again, or they actually felt at home for the first time, because the sweepers, they were quiet and kind, and they did the job, and that was meaningful. They had a meaning in their lives, they had a purpose, and they felt that they belonged there. But one day in the carnival, one of the people celebrating, they thought that was maybe their mother. This dreamer or traveler really reminded them of their mother, and they followed, and they got back home. And they couldn't find their way back to the Carnival of Sorrows. Not quite, not yet. And and their parents, they were happy to have their child back. Yeah, that they had missed them. They had noticed that Leigh was missing after a while, had taken a bit, but they had missed them. That was a child gone, even though they hadn't paid much attention to them. Still, if it's gone, it's not. They were worried, but they couldn't deal with the fact that their child now returned would vanish again, and they couldn't find them. Where was that? And that's why Leigh came to the school, because Leigh didn't feel at home back there in this chaotic household, and they didn't even like people paying attention to them all that much. So yeah, maybe it's better here. Maybe people won't pay that, but maybe they can find their door again, right? That's possible, isn't it? They really just want to go back.
Yeah, and I am curious because I just to kind of first off, to sort of like I'm just thinking through the mechanics of the ghost. I'm wondering, like, what are the situations you think that would bring to mind your return here? Because the way I'm hearing is you followed after someone.
Yeah. What would bring to mind well, I think it would be chaos and celebrations and all the things that the carnival was doing when the sweepers were not out, but they were watching, of course. That would bring back to mind this thing, and yeah, and of course mist and fog, because that's when the sweepers came out, when the mists were rising and the fogs.
Okay, cool. Do you think it was your mother that you saw at the Carnival of Sorrows, or something trying to trick you?
I don't know. I just don't know. I tried to talk to her, but she didn't even know what I was talking about. But that's not unusual. I think if you've gone to the Carnival of Sorrows, you go there to leave things behind, to forget. So if she didn't know it, then that's pretty much, yeah, at least she didn't get lost. But it might have been something that wanted to test me, I guess, or trick me. I don't know. I just don't know. Nobody warned me that this might happen.
Cool. And let me see here. You have picked transference and limitless. You can walk through walls and fly. I'm curious how, like, do other folks at the school know that you can walk through walls, or is this something you've been using selectively and in secret?
I don't think people know that I can do this. That would just draw attention to me if I told them, right? I don't want people to know that. Somebody might know, because I have a bond that says someone knows that you're dead. So that's maybe the thing that they actually know about me, that I can do this stuff.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I'm wondering, do folks have any questions for Leigh? I'm thinking some thoughts in my head, but I want to know if anyone has any questions, while I'm just kind of thinking if I have anything more I want to ask myself.
How long have you been back, and how long were you there?
I think I was there for what in this world was, I guess, 2 years, let's say. And I've been back for about six or 7 months.
So you were gone for 2 years of real time?
Yeah, I think so.
And then how many years did that feel like in the Carnival of Sorrows?
I have no. It's hard if you just if there is no clear sense of time in the Carnival of Sorrows, because every day is a frenetic party, and then there's this hour of the mist, and then there's the next day of frenetic party. It felt like a long time, but I couldn't say it was 2 years. 2 years feels too. I don't know. I'm as a teenager, especially. It felt like an eternity, but it might have been 2 years. If you ask Leigh, they would say it was longer than 2 years, much longer.
Cool. And yeah, I am curious. Does it, because you do seem to have this relationship to emotion. Do you like does gathering up people's sorrows in this world like feel any way for you? Like, is this just like because it's what you did in the other world, or is it actually something that like gives you an experience that like is beyond kind of the mundane?
Yeah, I think when I did it in the carnival, it didn't hurt me. It does here, but still, it's kind of this recollection of what we were doing is kind of a purpose to it, and that it gives me an echo of that purpose, an echo of that reason for being, and that echo of that being needed, right? So yeah, that it feels, despite the fact that it's painful, it feels kind of satisfying, I guess.
Cool. And David, do you have any questions you wanted to ask?
I think I'm okay. Yeah, so it doesn't seem to like the umbrellas not ideal for this.
It's okay. But yeah, in that case, let us. Well, I mean, I'll let you decide which of those names I should be using off for usually Kay.
Yeah. So I'm still a little undecided about part of my character's name, hence Stephen's poor having to deal with this. So my character's name before they left was Baron. However, they went to a place that I'm going to call belonging outside of belonging. So I think Baron, pre their sort of transition to this new place, grew up and life was, great. They were popular, they were athletic, everything was sort of just like a good time. They were kind of like they were definitely like a leader, like alpha on campus kind of a vibe, and just sort of, like the popular crew. And they were finishing off just having like a big party at their house, and a big like sort of event and things like that, where they just had like a really good time. There'd been like a touch football game that they'd sort of led, and their team won. And Baron felt really tired for a moment, and he went to go grab a drink from like the garage, and when he opened the door, he stepped into belonging outside of belonging, which was a totally different place. It looked so similar to our everyday world, but it was a little more city than the suburbs he was used to. But it was all very nice and varnished in sort of dark woods and, dark colorings instead of, cities are usually very, like clear and glass and things like that. And there definitely was glass, but everything was a bit hinged, a little darker, except some places where things were very clear, where there was like podiums and displays and things of that nature. And he stepped in, and a man came up to him and smiled and fingered their hands, slid their fingers into his hair, and said they'd been waiting so long for the perfect pet, and they were so excited that they finally had their, what they'd been looking for. And that was Baron. And the person had laughed and said, "You're no Baron. That's not a title for someone like you." And they changed his name. I'm still waffling a little between if it's something like Maxie or Bailey or Bowie or something like that. And slowly but surely, Baron was very confused. He didn't want to be there. This wasn't, he was just trying to get, a Monster Energy or cola or something. But this person explained he wouldn't be here unless it was where he was meant to be, where he should belong. And slowly, Baron sort of came to realize, that they were really tired. There's a lot that goes into leading. And sometimes it's just so much easier to follow and to not think and to not have to make the plans and the plays, but to just do as you're told. Leading is hard. And he slowly became accustomed to this place where he belonged. And it was nice, and he was happy, and he didn't have to think, and he was warm, and he was well taken care of, and all he had to do was listen. As long as you listened and you did what you were told, those were a rough few years maybe in the beginning, but he learned, and things were just so much better for it. And then one day they went for a walk, and then it gets a little fuzzy. And he woke up, and he was in front of, or he was in the backwoods of his parents' house, of his house. And, while time and age didn't happen where he was, he knew time had passed, but it had only apparently been about a month or so since he'd gone missing, and they'd found him, and there had been, loving marks on his arms and his wrists and in other places that they just didn't understand. They thought someone had taken him and held him captive, and whenever he tried to explain, he wasn't Baron anymore. He was Bailey or Bowie or Maxie, and his family just didn't get it. And they wanted Baron back. And that just wasn't something that he could really handle. He wasn't that person anymore. So his look is spoiled but empty eyes. The moves that I've chosen for him is he starts off with soul debt. So you owe a debt to a dark power. Name it. I also need to name that. Or maybe Stephen will. We'll see. I haven't figured that out. And then I've also chosen the move. I picked Can't Save Myself. When somebody saves you from forces too powerful for you to reckon with, they mark experience and you gain a string on them. I may swap that for Under Pressure. If someone has 3 or more strings on you, add 1 to your rolls to carry out their bidding. I'm a little waffly there. Very waffly.
No problem.
And then my bargains I've chosen are Elsewise Power. You can give the dark power a string to use a move you don't have just this once. This move can come from any skin. And String Detach. You can ask the dark power for something that you really, really want. The MC will attach a price to the thing you want and hint at an undesired twist in its nature. If you pay the price, you'll get what you're after. Yeah. That's what I've got so far.
Cool. I'm wondering, is there anything that Bailey does in... I mean, this is just... I'm just straight up ripping off the character of Jill here, but is there anything that Bailey does upon his return to sort of... I mean, not Bailey. I already switched over. Baron.
No,
I'll use that for now.
I feel like it's Bailey. I feel like you chose Bailey. You chose Bailey. The names I presented you, you chose Bailey, and that's the name we're going with.
Okay. Yeah. Is there anything that? I mean, that's exactly the thing. Why should your character choose what name they were given by your dark power?
Yeah, exactly.
Is there anything that, besides the name, like, is there anything that Bailey does to sort of keep themselves prepared to be their dark power's pet in this in the school?
I think there's a couple of different things. I think this is something that they've definitely run into some slight issues with. Bailey has issues sitting in chairs. It wasn't something he was permitted to do. So he has issues sitting in chairs. And I think there are certain structures he keeps to. There's a morning walk and there's an evening walk. And he goes for those walks. He can't not. Which maybe has had like maybe there are certain scheduled things that you're supposed to do that he just either doesn't do, and they've given, I'm not sure how long he's been here at the school. So that could be an interesting point of contention, perhaps. Like there's something he's supposed to be doing, like therapy or something. But no, he has to go for a walk at like this time of day. Like, I think those are definitely two things. There might be more. I don't know if you have any suggestions. I'd be happy to take them.
I mean, you mentioned those like marks. I'm wondering if he wears anything where like now.
Oh, I think he wears a collar. Yeah.
Okay.
I think he wears a collar.
Cool. Yeah, and I'm wondering, because we talked a little bit about there's kind of like a halfway point of like, is this dark power like an actual like thing talking through a crack in the door or something you've internalized? I'm wondering like what, like in terms of sort of playing towards them. I have a little bit of a sense here, but what are like, what does the dark power, like what does the dark power tend to want from you in this world? Because I mean, presumably they let you go for some reason, or you escaped or something like that. But what generally have they wanted from you in this world?
I think there's been a lot of testing of listening and obeying.
Okay.
Like if I tell you to do these things, well, you do them. Even if maybe at times they defied social convention or they denied you something that was nice or something you might have wanted. Like maybe there was I'm gonna throw you an NPC, Stephen.
Sure.
I think there's another student at this school. And I think that Bailey was becoming very close with them. And I think, and this fits perfectly if I take Can't Save Me From Myself. This is a thought. Or maybe it's one of the NPCs. I'll throw that out. NPCs. One of the other PCs. It could be an NPC. It could be one of the PCs. I'll let you guys decide if that's something that interests you. But I think they were getting very close to someone very friendly, maybe even sparks of something more. And their master ordered them to stop that and made them primarily sever that connection. Obviously, they live in a boarding school together. They're still going to see them, participate with them, things like that. But sort of, I imagine they were like I'm picturing like, maybe they were roommates or they kept going into each other's rooms and just talking all night or things like that. Or they'd play games together of some sort. or maybe they encouraged more human aspects of Bailey slash Baron, more free thinking in certain ways, or or maybe they again, I'm going to leave this up to interpretation. Maybe especially if a PC wants it, maybe they started subsuming giving orders. Yeah.
Cool. And we'll maybe figure that out during backstory if we want to, if anyone wants to volunteer for that. But does anyone have any questions for Bailey or Baron?
Yeah, I wonder, in this place where you went to, was it just you and your master, or were there other people, servants, or other masters with their pets around?
Yeah, I think there were other masters and their pets. I think it was a place where there were masters and everyone who came was a pet. Well, maybe not everyone. Maybe there were but to a majority of a degree. It was a place where that kind of relationship was a natural symbiosis of living there and belonging there, belonging outside of belonging. And so people there, yeah, and so there were like play dates, and events, and like showing off your pet and why your pet was the best and things like that. I am so intrigued. Sorry, I'm slightly distracted by Stephen's smile right now.
I'm sorry.
Good.
Yeah.
No, it's good. It's exciting. Yeah, does that answer your question, Sabine?
Yeah, it does answer my questions. Now, I wonder what kind of aspect does Bailey put forth at the school? Is he trying to regain his old position? I hear that he's probably not, but is he looking for someone who gives him orders?
I think he doesn't know. I think he's very lost. I think there are moments where Baron comes through. Like, I imagine, he was very involved in some form of sports ball. And I imagine maybe there was just like a recreation activity where he started to like sort of lead again and take part in something. And it felt really nice. The team that he was on won, and like he was the one who sort of pushed them there. But that's not who Bailey's supposed to be. Bailey's not supposed to lead. And there's maybe moments where things like that. I think there's moments where he wants to be guided, but then he knows he's supposed to really, obviously he should give grace and leniency to other masters, before he thinks himself, but he should really only listen to his master. Like, that's the top priority there. And so he doesn't know his place in a hierarchy anymore. He feels very lost.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you. Sports ball, I love it.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I am not a huge sports person. Don't yell at me, whoever's watching this. The sports I know are like hockey, tennis, and golf, and then it ends there. And so whenever I play, like, which is fairly often, maybe I should learn about more sports balls. But jockish characters, I'm like, a sports ball.
I mean, I think that this is just like, we just play like tennis hockey with large basketballs that just people shoot across the court at each other.
Yeah, sports ball, the shared pastime of the nation that characters live in. Yeah. I can't take credit for sports ball. I first heard about it on the Philip DeFranco show.
Yeah. And yeah, yes. But yeah, finally, let's see here. David, did you have any questions before we kind of introduce your character, and then we'll jump in, and then we'll do a break and come back?
Yeah, sure thing. I was going to ask basically Sabine's follow-up question, so I am good.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, so David, would you like to introduce Jason, our Siren?
Yeah, certainly. So yeah, I'm playing Jason, the Siren. Jason kind of has that look like he stepped out of a pre-Raphaelite, that's what I meant, painting. He was kind of, shy kid at school, not very self-possessed, and so on and so forth. His one talent, which he didn't share with a lot of people, was that he had a very good singing voice. And one day, sort of while out in the nondescript fields around sort of the town I grew up in, he was borne away by a flock of songbirds to essentially Mount Olympus. How much the serial numbers on that are filed off or not, I haven't entirely decided yet. But he was basically taken to serve in the court of the gods as a singing, playing the lyre, all that sort of thing. Once got there, he spent again a kind of in the world. He went to an indeterminate amount of time, sort of entertaining the gods, until as these things often happen, he incurred the jealousy of one of the gods, and they conspired to have him ejected back to the mortal realm again. When on his return to the mortal realm, he essentially had grown used to that being the center of attention, to that sort of adoration, and on his return back in sort of very mundane upbringing, kind of spent a lot of time kind of running away to try and essentially get noticed in sort of music venues and the like. Lots of problems with his parents that way, and then and the law and the like, and so was sort of sent here in the hope that this would contain his wilder urges, which I think has only to an extent worked. I think his sort of attitude here is there's still a lot of that resentment at both losing the station that he had and also essentially being in an environment that probably contains more prima donna type characters than your average school, and is kind of trying to make his mark here, trying to become the person that, or become not the person that he once was, but that return, trying to sort of reclaim that position. Sorry. Moves wise, I have gone for the basic one that I get for being my class. So I have the haunting melody, which basically is when I perform. I roll and I get to choose a number of options depending on how that goes. As basically people do things for me because of my my performance. I have Diva Tantrum, which is when I shut someone down. I get a new option on that roll, which is that the character marks experience if they give me what I want. And Catcher in the Rye, which is when you successfully tempt a side character, they will think it was their own idea once the current scene ends.
Cool. And I'm curious. So just because I'm curious, just to kind of lock this in a little bit more. Like you described it kind of having a pretty Raphaelite look. So was it generally a sort of Grecian like court of the gods that you were in?
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, very much that sort of classic, yeah, Greek pantheon.
Okay, and were these like full on like actual Greek gods or uh like I'm just thinking here.
But yeah, no, I think to answer anyway, no, I think yeah, it was like kind of essentially the gods themselves in sort of
Okay.
Mount Olympus. But probably some demigods and heroic hangers on and all that sort of thing as well. But yeah.
And I'm curious, what did you? I mean, you often in Greek myths don't have to do much, but what did you do to incur like the wrath and like having someone actually conspire to have you ejected from this world?
Yeah, I think I maybe keep it classic, and I think I maybe stole the heart of someone they felt rightfully belonged to them.
Was it the
What
heart
I'm
of one of? Oh, go
oh sorry.
ahead.
So what I'm hearing is in classic fucking mythology, Jupiter wants you, and Juno kicked you out.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was going to ask was it like the heart of a god or was it of another like mortal that they had brought into their world?
Ooh, that's a good question.
That's good.
Did you do it intentionally, or was this just that you were just so good and you didn't even actually try, but it happened anyway?
Yeah, I don't think I tried to do it intentionally. But and yeah, I'm just trying to decide whether um, I think I will go with another god because I think it makes it more dramatic that way.
Cool. And I'm curious, has like I guess what I want to ask is like how does it feel when you sing? Does it feel differently now that you have been to the world of the gods before and before? Like, do you think you've lost anything for going there, or do you think that you've only um in your relationship to singing, or do you think you've only kind of gained?
Um, I think I think that in most ways it's been a gain, but I think what it has lost is the joy of um, like singing for pleasure essentially, and it is now much more about about the adulation um, and that is obviously a lot more difficult to garner here in the mortal world. And so you can just put on the radio.
Cool. Does anyone else have any questions they wanted to ask of Jason?
I guess a bit of the standard ones like how long were you there? How long were you, gone from here? Uh, things like that. Did you age at all where you were like away? Because I know that's something that's interesting in the series.
Yeah, I think probably the apparent time away. The time away from the mortal world was probably about a year or so. Again, not like years and years, but it probably seemed like longer away. Though again, in that sort of way, because again, Mount Olympus is itself timeless kind of thing. It was all a bit difficult to judge, and I think again for similar reasons, it probably hasn't changed. It probably hasn't aged that much in the time away, but so probably has aged the amount that is as appropriate for the time away from the in mortal terms. So it hasn't done the thing of like not aging at all, and it also hasn't done the thing of like having become much older while away. So I think is sort of that has sort of aged as he would have if he weren't away.
Cool. And Sabine, do you have any questions?
Not so far, I think. I think I got a good image of Jason in my head.
I think I have one more question.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Was the love that this person, like, who you didn't intend to ensnare them, but what did you love? Like, were you reciprocal to that? Like, those amorous feelings there that this person had, that there was, this whole like love triangle, for lack of a better word, or like love shape, rhombus. I don't know.
I'd say in many ways it was less that they reciprocated the feelings so much as they felt flattered isn't quite the right word, but they felt it was valuable almost. It was a mark of their achievement, more so than reciprocating, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, they liked the adoration and they liked the placement of it, the status.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. So, is your world called Mount Olympus, or like Mount?
I think so. I think for ease of translation, rather than coming up with other things, I think I will just go with Mount Olympus. Yeah.
And are we cool if we use the Roman name? Because I have an ongoing Monsterhearts game that's very Greek gods are very heavily present, and I don't want to like confuse the timelines.
I will attempt to. I'm better on the Greek names, but yes, I will. I'm okay with that in principle.
Okay. So yeah, if folks could jump back to your characters, and again, for people here, basically all know how strings work, but strings are a currency in Monsterhearts that basically lets you tempt other characters. It also, I believe, lets you alter rolls you make, targeting them. It is kind of the main currency for interacting with other player characters and kind of getting entangled with them. And to start the game, everybody sort of gets some backstory questions that let us sort of entangle characters to begin with. We're playing without the fourth person who's going to be here, going to make it tonight. Will be joining us next week. So if folks want to hold off on a backstory that they don't think fits anyone, feel free. But I do want to jump over to Leigh. And again, we were kind of altering some of the aspects of the Ghost playbook to suit like this idea a little bit better. And I see you've changed up your backstory questions a little bit. But Lee, you have 2 backstories there. Why don't you start by throwing out one of them?
Okay, I'm unmuted. Okay, where are your backstory questions? So I have someone knows that you can do weird shit and why. They gain 2 strings on you. And you've been inside someone's bedroom while they were sleeping, take a string on them. And I would prefer if we did the whole you've been inside someone's bedroom while they were sleeping now, because I don't want to leave that open for Marley, because if they're not comfortable with that, that would be weird. So if any of you might want to jump on that, maybe it's Jason, because I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, that I'm certainly happy for you to have been creeping into my room. That's fine.
Okay, so I'm taking a string on you.
So
I mean, Jason may or may not be cool with that, but I'm fine.
David, I would not sneak into your bedroom and watch you while you're sleeping. I'm not Edward.
yeah, what drew you to this? What drew you to this? I mean, beyond the obvious.
I mean, I think there was. I imagine that Jason is still singing a lot, right? Because that attracts people to him, and maybe he sang something that reminded me, maybe a song of sorrow and melancholy and stuff like that. Because I mean, why not? And yeah, that drew me. I thought maybe.
No, go ahead.
Maybe I could maybe there was real sorrow. Maybe I could help with that. Maybe I could gather it up. I don't know. I just wanted to look, basically.
Yeah, I'm also thinking back to your kind of character creation questions. Is what was he singing like a melody or something that you recognized as playing that night you like return to the world, to this world?
No, I
Okay.
I don't think so. Most of the music at the carnival was loud and blaring, and in the mist we had very, very soft melodies. But no, I wouldn't have gone to him if that had been the case. But maybe I thought I sensed some kind of sorrow within him.
Sure.
Something missing, something he wanted to lose. Yeah, that's probably more than anything else that drew me.
Yeah, that's cool too. I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, no. Jason will absolutely like sing sad songs out of his window at night with that moon coming down. It's
And I guess I want to ask Jason then: is this sorrow genuine, or is it just another part of your performance?
It's probably a little of both. I think there is genuine sorrow and sadness and a desire to get back what has been lost, but it is also there is an element of artificiality to it, in the sense that it's kind of drawing on that to perform and to work his art, as it were, rather than entirely. I mean, yeah, genuine isn't quite the right word, but it's there's definitely a there's definitely a performative aspect to it. Put it that way.
Yeah, and Sabine, did you want to throw out your other backstory question?
I might want to hold on to that for next week.
Okay, sure.
Just so there's a bit of options for Marley to choose from.
Yeah. And yeah, we'll go over to Bailey here. Bailey, would you like to throw out, and this is again, remind us of the other kind of it's not necessarily there. Well, maybe the last question might apply to it, but we had that discussion about did somebody used to like be special to you before you kind of broke with them, was what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, so I think some of it might apply a little. So I have two backstories. One is you owe debts, give away 3 strings, divided any way you like between the dark power and the other characters. And then my second one is someone thinks they can save you, gain a string on them. I think immediately my dark power definitely gets at least 1 string. I'm going to hold off dealing with those other 2 strings, I think, until we know who and what Marley's character is, as well as based sort of on if anyone wants to take that character idea or concept or have that be an NPC. Additionally, also, like someone thinks they can save you, gain a string on them. Does that appeal to anyone and their characters? You know, if not, that's totally cool. But
I would like to save you.
yeah.
I think yeah. Yes, I do. I think you deserve it.
Mm-hmm. So then I guess my secondary question is, do you feel like, because I know Lee's been described as very standoffish, do you think you're that same character from the previous conversation, or is this a different angle? Or are you just watching?
It's possible. Yeah, sure. I think Lee would immediately withdraw if there was some kind of pushback, but that withdrawing doesn't mean that they're gone. It just means that they're more quiet, try to be more unobtrusive, but they still understand that this may be not who you actually are. That something's making you do that.
Yeah, I want to ask what about Lee? Does Bailey find special?
What about Lee? I think there's like and correct me if this is a wrong assumption. I feel like there's an unstated confidence in Lee that's really there. Like, she owns and truly knows who he is. Oh, sorry, they own and truly know who they are, which is something that's really hard for Bailey, who feels so astride and lost right now. And so the fact that you are so confident in who you are and your sort of place in the world and what you do, and what you're good at, is something that Bailey really sort of admires.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Lee has a very clear idea of who they are. Maybe they're wrong. But,
I mean, and Bailey, isn't it the most enjoyable when it's the confident ones that break?
Oh.
Yeah, I love it.
Triggered. Bailey triggered. But yeah. Ooh, that's I love that. That's spicy. Yeah, so I think I like that. Do we want a competing NPC involved in that at all? Or do we like that where that is?
I think I like that where it is. We'll probably introduce some NPCs that will complicate things in just a little bit, so we don't need to necessarily come up with them now.
I'm gonna throw one of my OG 3 strings over to Lee.
Cool.
So I've got 1 left in play, and we'll see what's going on with Marley's character before we do anything with that.
Yeah, and you're also gaining a string on Lee from someone thinking they can save you, right?
Exactly, yes.
Cool.
All right, I think that handles my backstory character questions for now.
Yeah, and turning over here to Jason, would you like to introduce us to your backstory?
Yeah, sure thing. Mine are quite straightforward ones. The first one is someone is your diehard fan. I take 2 strings on them. And the second is who inspires your performances. Give them 2 strings on me.
I mean, I feel like there's an obvious answer to the first one, but maybe we want to spread that around a little bit. I don't know.
I will say I don't think the first one is Bailey. I think it could, obviously the obvious answer would be Leigh. But I don't know if we want to leave that open. I'd be open to the second one if it appeals at you all, David, or we can leave it open, whatever you like.
I mean, it could be maybe not diehard fan of his singing, but I mean, if anyone at the school is like the master, like Jason does basically seem to expect people to like just give things to him and believe it was their idea.
That is true. That is very true. But so here's the thing or the one thing, I think the give thing is there, but the idea that it's your own idea is interesting. It might be definitely fun to play with. I think there's definitely something there. I just the diehard fan, I don't know.
Fair.
I mean, we could play with that though, for sure, because that then gives at least 2 points of possible jealousy avenues. Do you like either of those, David, or because we can do that? I think we can shape that to make that work.
Yeah. I'm wondering. So I think for the second one, the Who Inspires Your Performances, I think that one I would rather wait until Marley's character is settled as well, because I feel at the moment I feel like neither Bailey or Leigh seems like an obvious choice for that. Mm-hmm. Which isn't to say they'd make a bad choice for it, but I'd be interested to see what Marley brings to the table, and then kind of decide between them all. But yeah, if someone does fancy taking the diehard fan one, then cool.
What if, because we have such a question mark on what kind of person Marley's character is going to be, do we want to just hold off and see where that goes, or?
Sure. I'm also fine with, because it helps get us up to like kind of talk through these things now. But if nobody is really standing out as wanting to volunteer for that, I'm fine. Remember that we can, like, it's always preferable to give them to other PCs, but we can always, if there's nothing that strikes us as obvious, give them to NPCs as well. If there's absolutely no way we can think through it.
I guess my one thing there is, if Marley's character doesn't strike the second one, I don't want to take the first one and limit David's options there, I guess. Or I guess that's my concern.
I'd be happy to take the first one, but I don't have to if we want to wait. So
yeah, or I can take it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think if you're cool with that, I think Sabine, I think, yeah, it kind of, we've established already, it does make sense if that was Leigh.
Okay.
I mean, it's kind of doubling down on something we've already established, but at the same time, I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Awesome. And wondering, because so this sort of implies that someone is your diehard fan and you take 2 strings on them, that like you have them pretty firmly like in your pocket. That's 2 strings is a fair bit. I'm wondering, like, is So, like, Jason presumably does not know about the well, they might, but presumably does not know that
No.
that Leigh is. Oh yeah.
Yeah, go on, Steam. Sorry.
Oh yeah, that Leigh is kind of has watched them sleep. But I'm curious, like, how you've picked up on the fact that, like, Leigh is just, like, of all the people at school, the one who is most kind of beholden to your music. Or I guess if Leigh has an idea as well.
How would you know that they are your biggest fan, I guess?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an odd one because Leigh is usually not someone to jump up and down and wave a huge Jason flag or something.
Yeah.
Maybe they're, well, I think because maybe you just not overheard them, but because I think maybe they wrote you a letter, like a very heartfelt letter, how much your music inspired them, and that you probably didn't know who they were because they know they're very unassuming, but they felt like you should know that the emotions your music conveyed were particularly strong and vibrant and pure, and that they absolutely adored that.
Oh man. How does Jason get letters like this often?
Not often, I don't think. It may not be like an entirely unique experience, but no, I don't think it's common. Like I said, because I think part of the whole thing is and certainly the vibe I got like reading the book is that the a lot of the kids here do tend to be quite self-centered kind of thing. So yeah, like reaching out to someone else to say, "Oh, you're really cool," is probably not the most usual thing to happen here.
Cool. I'm wondering, how did it feel like to be uh noticed in this way, since you've lost your position among the gods?
Yeah, it definitely kind of helped. You know, um, uh, I've lost the metaphor I was going for, but yeah, it probably. I think it definitely helped to kind of um, make up for it a bit. It's kind of confirmation that he's still got it, and maybe he will be able to return one day.
I think this is just confirmation that Leigh needs to work a little bit harder to let you know that you need to work for their adoration. But yeah, cool. Does that all sound cool to you, Leigh?
And totally, I wonder if Jason at first actually knew who Leigh was, and then he had to kind of find out because sometimes it's really hard to see them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and cool. With our backstory taken care of, I wanted to go into kind of establishing, and we'll just hide this last column. We don't need that one, that many students to start with. To establishing some of the other kind of students in your kind of your homeroom class where you begin your day. I'm curious, because it sounds like of the people here, the one who actually gets the seat that they want, and rather than the seat that other people want for them, or the seat that's left for them, is uh Jason. I'm curious, where does Jason tend to sit in class?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like obviously, it should be where the teacher is, but I think I'm going to say probably like one of those four central. We'll say the one that's kind of uh, there, yeah, so on the second from the front to the left. So at least there's a fairly direct line between the teacher and them. They're fairly central to everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Without being at the front like a nerd.
Yeah. Who sits to your right?
I think that is what's a good name? We'll go with Cordelia.
She, her?
Yes, yep.
And did you have any thoughts about what her deal is, or you just?
I think that her. Again, I'm going to just go with kind of easy trope here, but I think that she kind of had that very like Alice in Wonderland type experience, where it was probably in the parlance of a fairly high nonsense world, but I think that she's like Alice does in the books. So it's obviously shaped her experiences, but it's not. She's less kind of like random than kind of the. I'm blanking on the name, but the roommate in Every Hat a Doorway.
Sumi.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess I want to. I want to throw out here. Yeah. I think I will. I will throw this out to. Baron. Why doesn't anyone mess with her anymore?
Oh man. I have two ideas. The first one is batshit. Like, I'm gonna straight up say it. I don't know entirely how we would feel about this because it's pretty dark. So I want to asterisk this and give this idea first. You said Alice in Wonderland, and my first thought is off with her head. And so I think there is a straight up chance, and let me know if this is too dark and if we don't like this or if this would not be acceptable. Like, my first thought is she like nearly beheaded another student. Someone was being really mean to her, like a queen bee type student or something like that, who thought they were all that and were picking on her for her some of her nonsensical kind of ways. And she just straight up was like, you are had like a sort of a moment where almost like a trigger flashback happened to the world she was in, and off with her head, and she like attacked another student and nearly like decapitated her.
I'm
like a
fine with
knife.
that as long as we're not like opening with them like straight up being like I think that if she had actually killed another student and was just sitting beside Jason, that would be even a little bit of a stretch for me. But I could see that. Are folks cool with that?
Yeah,
Yes.
no, that works for
As
me.
long as we're sorry. Go ahead, David.
Oh yeah, no, I was going to. I think I was probably going to say similar sort of thing. I think that works for me. Yeah, like I said, I think maybe even like she kind of almost went to decapitate someone, but like was stopped and that didn't happen. But yeah, I can definitely see like she kind of reacted like with surprising violence, shocking violence. That's the word.
And like strength and coordination that no one was expecting from someone who's so whimsical, like accuracy.
Yeah, but I think I would like to say that this was clearly unacceptable behavior, right? You don't behead another student.
Exactly.
But you don't even try, but but it happened.
But it's certainly definitely marked, don't fuck with her.
Yeah, I guess I want to ask Bailey, because we're on this. Where does that student sit in class these days?
I guess my first question is, does that student even in this class anymore?
I mean, there aren't a lot of other schools like this they could go to, right?
So I think they're in one of two opposite options. They are either right at the corner right here, because it is the quickest flee point, because I'm assuming the door is right here.
Sure.
Or they're here, which is like the farthest point from Cordelia.
Which of those do you want to go with? I'm fine with either of those.
I'm gonna say they're in the back because it's the farthest sort of point.
Yeah, and you don't have to remove yourself. If you think Bailey sits at G5, that's fine.
Okay, yeah, I think Bailey's here because it's like the teacher's pet seat. Like the teacher is the authority kind of placement there, and so like being front and center to listen to lessons and or commands is sort of like the placement, which is funny because Baron definitely used to sit like where Jason is back in the day.
Great. What do you think that other student's name was, though? Or is? They're not dead.
Is okay. The student in the corner. I'm gonna call them Micah.
Cool. What's their deal? Because I mean, clearly they have picked on. Like, is Cordelia the only student they've picked on, or have they picked on others in the past as well?
I think Micah's a bit of a bully. I think Micah went to like a survival of the fittest kind of like gladiatorial combat. I don't know about gladiator as like the image, but that kind of like I'm forgetting the name, like Hunger Games or like there's like a name, Battle Royale. Thank you, a Battle Royale kind of place.
Cool.
Where there were observers and champions, and they're very much like a very vibe of like, I'm the strongest, I need to kind of do that kind of a thing.
Yeah. And yeah, I guess I want to ask, Leigh, how have they been unexpectedly kind towards you?
I think they, in a way, they don't view me as a threat or as someone who might challenge them, who they have to kind of dominate. Because if you, like, maybe I remind them of one of the judges or one of the servitors that were kind of boosting the champions. Yeah, I think that's what it is. And so Micah has learned in their world that you're better and be nice to the servitors, because they can really mess you up if
You're someone they need to impress.
Yeah, I'm someone they need on their side, because I can. They in their mind, I might be someone who can get them stuff, who can help them gain the edge, right? Because they might have an idea that I can go places that others can. They might not precisely know what I can do, but they know that I might be able to do weird shit, and also that people usually don't notice me.
Oh,
Ooh,
yeah. Sorry, I'm just like, you got that whole like sort of rue up in. Sorry, I'm having like such like genre flat, like that rue up in the tree. You're like, no one perceives you, so you're like great for tactical information or like weak spots or sneaking something.
Yeah, something like that. In that way, and also, I mean, I think Micah, they get into a lot of fights, and I'm good at taking care of people who have been in fights, right? So, yeah, I think there is a kind of a natural, even though I don't like it when Micah starts bullying other people, and I might have tried to gently explain to them why that's not acceptable, but so far, ears were not particularly receptive. I think I have a complex of trying to save the people who are in trouble. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Leigh, I see you've taken the. Actually, I might as well just throw this up so people can actually see what we're talking about. Let's just tab.
Oh, also Leigh.
Yeah, sorry, Leigh. Sorry. I want to ask who do you think takes this seat between you and Jason, Leigh?
I think that is Quentin. Quentin is a boy, and Quentin went.
I have a character named Quentin.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Okay.
We don't want to do that. Let me. Quirin?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Quirin's cool.
Okay, Quirin. So Quirin went to a place, sort of a place of mad inventors. Like, everybody was always inventing stuff. So, Quirin, I mean, sits behind Jason. Why does he? Was that his? I don't think that was particularly his choice. He just plopped his bag there and then started to unpack all his little cogwheels and thingies and stuff. And I think it's a bit. He might get up to Jason's nerves a bit, because he really. His desk tends to overflow with his invention-y stuff. But also he might invent some sort of microphone or sound thingy that might help you beam your music into Olympus. Who knows? Maybe you can do that. Who knows? It's possible. Maybe. You'll have to check this.
Yeah, I will straight up ask. He might not have at the start of class, but Jason, how do you know that Corin's in love with you, or has a crush on you at least?
Yeah. I think it's again. I think partially it's just due to like Jason's kind of awareness of being seen, I suppose, and he can tell that that Quirin is looking at him, you know, when a lot of the time, except obviously when Jason turns to look at him back, when he obviously always looks away and looks flustered.
Now, is this something? Is this a bit like when the god had you caught the god's heart? This is just like proud of doing a good job of being desirable, or
Exactly. The more people who want me, the better. Essentially, that shows that I'm doing my job right.
cool. And I think we'll do like one more round of adding some characters, and then we'll leave off the rest to kind of finish up with Marley here. But I did want to ask because I mean, Jason, you're Jason, so I feel like we need to ask who's the person you permit to sit on the left side of you, because I feel like you don't get to sit on one of those two sides unless like you have some permission.
Yeah, I think that is we'll go with Maria. Also uses she, her, and I think that Maria was I think she went to a very like one of those worlds that's like an odd mix of the of logical and nonsense. I'm thinking specifically in terms of actual books. I don't know if you ever read the Phantom Toll Booth, where it's like all kind of very. It's a very weird world, but it's all based in like maths and stuff like that. So it's that kind of odd sort of mix. And I think that Maria is maybe still quite shy. Not like a complete shrinking violet, but she's kind of quite shy, quite demure, and in some ways reminds Jason of what he was like before. And is also, a good person to copy off during tests.
Can you explain the high logic, high nonsense world again to me, because my brain is just blanked on that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that. I mean, it's been many years since I actually read it myself, but it's some of my very, very vague rememberings of a book called The Phantom Toll Booth, where it's like the world is strange and unusual, and it is kind of it's sort of nonsensical, except there are very strong. So like everything is kind of based on maths and like logical rules and stuff like that.
As long as you know your grammar, as long as you can do your maths, you can get along fine in the world. But otherwise, the world kind of makes no internal sense.
Yeah, it's sort of nonsensical from a real world perspective, but within itself has very strict rules.
But yeah, let me see here. I guess I will ask this of Leigh here. Why aren't they in class today?
Maria?
Yeah. Sorry.
I think she's not in class because, yeah, there was this, is calico a name for a cat coloring? Yeah.
Yeah, that's like the patchy cat coloring.
Yeah, I thought it was, I didn't know if it applied to cats. So yeah, there was a calico cat that crossed her way, and that in the world she went to, that meant that you should hunker down and stay in your room and don't meet people, because things would go wrong if the calico cat came by. No, and that's why she's in her room, because there's no way she's leaving that. Not when a calico cat was running around.
Yeah, and then yeah, and then I guess I wanted to ask of yeah, let's see here. Who do you think takes this? Well, let's fill out maybe the right side a little bit. Who do you think is sitting at the kind of, not the right corner spot, but this spot right here? Leigh.
Who sits there? I think their name. Let me see. I have to say. I think it's an Ian. His name, he says, is Ian. And Ian went to some sort of fairy world, like regal. He says he wasn't stolen, he went through a door and then he was stolen, but you never know. Yeah, it was just basically, wasn't the high she or talking fairies. No, these were kind of flower fairies, right? And everything was huge. Like ants were a real problem because they were huge and they had soldiers and stuff like that. So yeah, but he could fly there. That was nice. He was about knee high, so if you can see this, so not very tall.
Yeah, and yeah, I think I will. Yeah, I'm gonna ask this of Baron here. How does what about them reminds you of home?
Oh, what about Ian reminds me of home?
Yeah.
home.
And this could be home in any interpretation of that word here.
Okay. Yeah. I think Ian is British. And I apologize, Stephen. So I think Ian is British, and my mom is British. So I think they are from similar areas in Britain and have like a similar accent.
Cool. And just as a heads up, I'm not David. I'm not doing accents. So and that's not because David's British. That's because David is very good at accents, and I'm not.
David will speak for the role of Ian. Accent work. But yeah, or it doesn't have to be British. We can do something else. But,
that's fine. I'm just letting you know that I can do voices. I just can't do accents, and we can like assume that he has an accent that I am just not voicing.
Is there an accent or a voice you want to do that we can pick instead?
I'm fine. I'm fine. I find accents troubling to do. So I'm fine with him being British, as long as we can just agree that that's part of the theater of the mind here.
Okay. Yeah, so I think so he has a British accent, as does mine. And so it sort of puts me in this weird place because I think Bailey doesn't try to think of his time as Baron often, or home. That's not his home anymore.
Interesting. Cool. And Bailey, I kind of wanted to ask this of you because you seem to have an interest here. Who's the teacher for this class? What class do you think your homeroom is?
Ooh. Oh God, my first thought was psychology, but we can't.
That's. Oh no, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say psychology was the first thing that popped into my head, but. Or
I was gonna say like that's the subject that Baron could probably be a case study in, but
yeah, maybe health.
Cool. And who's this teacher that you are very interested in impressing?
His name is Mr. Montgomery.
And is this a teacher who you think is in the know about travel between worlds, or is more or less kind of here as like one of the kind of contractors they bring to the school to teach?
I think he's in the know. I think his twin sister is also a teacher here. And I think at a point in time, she went to a different world.
I like the idea that the twin sister is either much older or much younger than him.
I think she's a student.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I like the idea that, she disappeared. Family was never the same. Family kind of maybe, I don't I shouldn't inference too much. I have ideas, but I shouldn't inference too much about this NPC.
I'm gonna just straight up ask this then. How does his twin sister manage to scare even you, Baron, as someone who has known some very scary people and seems more or less to want to serve them?
Ooh. Wait, so I'm a little. I'm scared of the sister. Is that what we're going for here?
Scare or intimidate. Like, how do they manage? How does the sister manage to, like, is someone that is like scary even to someone who has the master's protection?
Yeah. I think she's very protective of Mr. Montgomery. I think she's actually the older twin.
Mhm.
And she sort of can maybe tell that Bailey sort of puts Mr. Montgomery on like a wee bit of a pedestal or like a authoritative position and is like, no. Whatever issues you have, you are not putting them on my brother. So help me. Like, he's already had to deal with a lot with me going missing and what we went through and what I went through and the fact that I'm, 14 and he's, in his 30s. Or, something like that. And you're not doing that. And she has this uncanny ability to like to just like pick out the thing you're most like everyone. She knows the thing that everyone is most like scared of or like uncomfortable with themselves. One of those kinds of things. Like the deep-seated thing inside you that you either fear or that like makes you upset. She knows how to pluck that thread.
Cool. Awesome. And we're just hitting right up now, coming up at the half-hour after mark, which is about when we said we'd wrap up here. I'm pretty good with leaving our kind of discussion. I'm going to throw these characters up, descriptions of them into the keeper after today's session. So
I've written some notes into it as notes.
Great, thank you.
Sure. I wonder can we put Mr. Montgomery's sister in the classroom?
Sure. Yeah. I think I'll throw this over to Jason. Where do you want to put her? Because I mean, I'm sure Bailey wants her to sit somewhere, but she's not. But no one listens to Bailey, so.
I think it's probably to one side or other of Bailey in that front row.
Sure, let's put it on the right side.
She's between him and the door. Him and escape.
Yeah. It also gives Marley the opportunity if they want to sit next to Jason, our golden child. Yeah, cool. Awesome. So yeah, thanks everyone for coming around. I had a lot of fun. I am going to take us off the broadcast now, but thanks anyone for watching. I'm looking forward to kind of jumping into things next week.